I created this podcast called Impact Warrior because my whole thing was like, to be able to have the impact that we want to create, we have to be able to break through tons of different barriers and walls and moments in our life, right? Mine became trying to get my sons home, right? Being a good father, trying to battle against health scare that just popped up.
Hey, I'm Joe Fier, and welcome to the Hustle and Flow Chart podcast. This is where we talk all about building businesses so they give you the freedom and fuel for your life. I'm not here to help you build a billion-dollar business, but I am here to help you create a business with systems that work for you so you can make more money than you need just by working part-time. You know, I was a chronic hustle mode kind of guy, and I want to share my experiences and mentors I've met along the way to help you reframe things to be the most effective as an entrepreneur. I wish I had this guidance and insight when I was younger, so that's what I'm doing here for you. Please share and enjoy. Hey, welcome back to another episode, and this one brings back an old friend of mine, Casey Zeman. He's the founder and CEO of Easy Webinar, and also has a great podcast called Impact Warrior. And this guy, it's been a long time since we connected, and he was last on the podcast in 2017. The world was different then, and also both of us, we weren't dads yet. And that now, you know, we both have family units that are much larger and different than they were before. And speaking about Casey specifically, the last time he was on this show, he was in the middle of adopting two boys from Haiti and going back and forth. There's a hell of a journey there. And also he had a biological daughter during that time. Then last year, 2022, he had a whole health scare and a heart surgery, a whole thing. So he dives into how all of these events have changed how his perspective is, but yet it's helped him really focus and intentionally grow Easy Webinar, the platform that, you know, this is the webinar platform, an automation tool. It's a great way to put training out there and to use as a selling mechanism as well. It's something that I'm going to start using again. We used to use it a lot. Matt and I did back in the day. So it's definitely a tool to peek into, and I'll give you links and all that stuff in the show notes if you're curious about that. And what Casey's going to dive into here is a lot of these perspective shifts of what he's learned over the years, but also how, you know, not only on the family front and the personal level, but on the webinar front. Now with, you know, COVID has happened and, you know, there's a lot of been distant learning and virtual stuff happening. That means webinars have changed. And there's a whole way that Casey recommends on how to do webinars and also how to even create the training right inside of a webinar format and automations, which Easy Webinar does really well. So he actually lines that out on this episode. You'll get a bunch of takeaways, very actionable, and it's actually a model that I will be swiping for my own offer around podcast consulting and some of the things that I'm rebooting on that front. So keep a lookout for that as well. But in any case, strap in, take some notes, and get ready to hang out with Casey Zeman and myself. Let's get into it. Mr. Casey Zeman, this is round 2, and it's only been since 2017.
It's 6 years, no big deal.
No, nothing's happened, right?
Nothing's really happened in that time, no. You know.
Oh, man. Well,
I have more knee hair, you know, maybe a little more chest hair than
knee hair.
Yeah.
I've always had a bunch of that. Oh, but dude, I mean, I know a lot has changed over the years for both of us. That's not about me. It's about you. And I want to, I mean, you're on a farm right now for one. I know. Had to call it out, man.
I'm not in my element. Normally I'm in my home in LA, but over the summer, as we talked about earlier, me and the family, we come to my wife's parents' farm in Iowa, and we're here for like a month, and then we go to visit my parents in Michigan, and we stay there for about a month as well. So I'm but brought my
It sounds good. Yeah,
so that I could be ready to go if I needed to here.
Well, that's what I feel like we have both evolved in a lot of different ways to be flexible with life and business and family now, because you've grown quite the family over the last years, and I have as well. And I don't know, I feel like, and this is what we were just chatting about, is like the different changes in what has happened, and maybe even sometimes force that kind of change too, even health related things too. And yeah, stoked to say that you're still doing Easy Webinar and you have some big new iterations there. So let's definitely chat on that in the episode. And I want to talk about, you know, what you're doing in terms of the business, family, and also you have a podcast that kind of supports, I feel like, that vision, a newer show. So
Yeah.
What's top of mind for you? Like, how would you introduce yourself or reintroduce yourself to folks that might not have seen you in a while, or maybe they heard of Easy Webinar, don't really know the Z-Man, who's
Don't know
behind the
the Z-Man.
scenes?
Well, I since the last time we talked, I've still have Easy Webinar. We've actually last time I talked to you with Easy Webinar, we hadn't even created our Easy Webinar Corp. So, in 2018 is when I started the journey of trying to separate personal brand and Easy Webinar to a degree, to where Easy Webinar could grow on its own as a corporation and have it as a sellable entity at some point. Obviously, whether you decide to sell or not, you need to make it a sellable product, right? So I pulled some of those pieces out where it wasn't relying on me, the personal brand. And, we started growing a team and we started doing our thing with Easy Webinar. And it was, from 2017 till now, the team has definitely changed, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And it's grown since then. But in that same time, I was very heavily reliant on the team I had, because during that time in 2017 still is when we were going through the adoption process, right? So actually in 2017, for those who don't know, I have three kids. I have two sons that are adopted from Haiti and a biological daughter. And I think in 2017, our daughter was just being born, and I had just gone to Haiti to visit my sons again for like the third time now. And so we started the adoption process in 2014, and then we got our sons home in 2018. So even during that time of 2000, like when I first started visiting Haiti to go meet my new children, that was 2016. So when I talked to you, I had been doing that for a year or so, where flying back and forth to Haiti, meeting my kids, talking to them, learning Haitian Creole so we could communicate with our kids. And, all that while, I needed to still have the business running. So luckily, because, we have automated webinars, we were using our own tool to sell our own product without me having to be there all the time.
Awesome.
So that was a conscious decision to continue this like automation process, so that I didn't always have to be there, all the time running the business, because I was trying to get my kids home. So that worked out. But we started to add more team members and things like that. But really, I honestly, the business sort of suffered for, when I say suffered, it dipped a bit in like 2017 to 18, because I was so busy. And I knew I wanted this vision for trying to get it into a sellable position where I could step away from it a bit more, where it was more autonomous and moving on its own. So because I was still sort of tied to it, someone who was always on the videos, et cetera, it was hard to make that transition. So when I was always going to Haiti, I couldn't necessarily work on the business. So it suffered a little. But that's after the kids came home in 2018. So the boys came finally to the US in 2018. That's when we started doing the rebuild of it, getting it as a corporation, and started to scale up, but yeah, so when I talked to you last, I hadn't gotten the boys home yet. So yeah. In 2018, the beginning of 2018, I spent about a month and a half in Haiti trying to get my kids out, basically. And, I documented on Facebook and talked about it. And I know you probably saw it. But yeah, I was stuck at the embassy or on the steps of some government building, and they wouldn't listen to me or let me in. And I had my two kids on my lap for 7 hours or whatever. It was a long journey to try to get finally out of there, on top of the fact that the orphanage they were living in had a lot of things going on, sexual abuse and all sorts of other stuff that we just needed to get them out of there. So anyway, all that happened in 2017, going into 2018, and finally though, getting them home in 2018 was just like such an amazing experience, like having them there and just seeing their growth, seeing how healthy they got after time, because they were obviously, malnourished and all sorts of, had a lot of health conditions. So they just like changed, very fast through that time. And so business and, being able to take that and being able to then also grow the company and try to get things going there. It was a lot, but we were able to kind of find a balance. And then somehow I don't know how I did it.
Well,
but then, we went from 0 kids to 3 kids in 1 year because we went. So she was born in 2017. The boys came home in 2018. She was 1 year old when the boys came home, and so we had a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 4-year-old all now in the house, and that became, and it was fast. And we would jump in, and now that was the unit, So, and it's cool. I mean, it's like, it's been 5 years, something like that.
Yeah. Wow.
Since then. So
it's incredible, man. And I love the fact that, you leverage the business, and we talked about how our personal systems, you and I are kind of similar. It's like, it's nice to have other people on the team or even technology that support us to be our best, and I like the fact that you separated yourself from Easy Webinar as at least the main guy, the brand. And I think that's crucial to do for a lot of reasons, even though you haven't sold, you still haven't. Yeah.
Right. We haven't sold. And, but it's nice that, I mean, obviously we get the emails, and I've had conversations with numerous, companies. So, obviously, it's SaaS is still something people are very much wanting, even though, sort of the tepid temperature in the beginning of the year and the concerns about SVB, and all the things that going on with SaaS with layoffs and things like that. Still, it's a lot of SaaS companies are still on a growth trajectory. So
goals are very high. I think it's 7 times gross or something like that is what.
A lot. That's the goal. But a lot of companies, a lot of investors are still, private equity still cares about EBITDA and focusing more on EBITDA multiples instead. So it varies. And especially after all that, stuff that went on, now they're really kind of more focused on EBITDA, I think.
That makes sense.
Where they're like, let's make sure they're profitable, and then we'll give them a multiple on that profitability.
Know how to run a company, and scale up.
So it's a catch-22. As a bootstrap company, you need to grow, but you also need to make sure you have that you're profitable too. So it's like we're always riding that fine line and figuring out how we can scale up while also maintaining a profitability stance. So it's been a fun adventure of doing that. And when COVID hit, that actually did a bump for our business.
Virtual, right? Virtual everything.
Webinars, virtual. People are like, oh, so we saw a bump in the business during that time. And, with COVID, when COVID was coming back down, we noticed that there was like a slow, the rate, things started to come down a little bit. Right. Sure. And I think it was also the economy at the same time and all those pieces, which has been an interesting ride to see, kind of how our business is tied also to the economy. I don't know if yours is tied to the economy or if you can.
I think all of ours are. You probably have a lot better of a through line since you have a continuity style business and you have years of the same offer, something very similar. So I think you're very unique in that regard,
Yeah. Well,
what have you learned?
I think what we've learned is that you can't really let up, and a couple of things I've learned is, when you have a longevity business where you have things going on for a while, one thing I would say is like, there's going to be legacy. You're going to have like legacy stuff, right? Like pricing. Like we used to run our pricing model through a different platform. And we thought, it'd be cool to take all those legacy customers and try to rebuild them under the new thing so we can track them better.
Yeah.
So we did this big move, but in this big move, we ended up losing just because of like the cadence and also just from the move, I think we lost 250 to 300 customers. Just in this move. And I realized a couple things, I realized that if you have things in legacy, let them just live in legacy. Try not to rock the boat, change things around, just let it happen. And things that are going forward, change the things that are going forward, so to speak. So if they need to upgrade, or if they are choosing to maybe, I don't know, modify whatever, then maybe that's the time to upgrade them. But if not, we didn't upgrade them. We weren't like saying, hey, you're going to have to pay a higher price. We just moved the processing, how they were paying to a different platform. And whatever happened in that changeover, whether their credit card needed to be rebuilt or whether they got multiple notifications or whether some change happened, we lost customers from that change. They were still supposed to be billed the same amount. Nothing was changing in the amount they were billed, but something changed in the migration over to that side. So all that to say, I for me personally, if I do this again, I would always just keep the legacy as legacy. Like if I have a billing system going on, I just like, listen, there's thousands of dollars a month going through this thing. Let's just let it go. Let us do its thing. We're tracking it decently enough, but this is the thing we're focusing on for the new customers coming in. Yeah, that would be one thing. Obviously, what's been good is we've been also able to rebuild some of that with what we've lost. cost and get more people into the new system. And, with that also, we have a completely new version of Easy Webinar. So
I want to hear about that because,
yeah.
and maybe you can give us the Easy Webinar next. And this is something like Easy Webinar has been, I feel like you've been pushing the envelope a long time and you've been going against, a lot of big competitors, obviously during the COVID era, with a whole bunch of virtual things happening. But yeah, so I'm curious of what you've learned, and obviously like how that's evolved into Easy Webinar next. And
yeah.
Tell me about that.
There's going to be competitors all the time. It's like there's so many people came into the space as well in the last 5 years that it's been really interesting to see. But at the same time, that's why we knew a few years ago that we wanted to rebuild the system and change the system to some degree, but still keep a lot of the IP that we've been known for in terms of what our system can do versus others, but then add different levels to it. So Easy Webinar Next is like the next level of how we see event marketing happening, right? And things that we've rolled in are ways that you can like basically know your customers better. We realize Easy Webinar is basically a sales and marketing tool disguised as a webinar platform. So the insight and information that's found in Easy Webinar informs sales and marketing decisions. So we had so many customers, especially our enterprise and our power users, who were like, I love the platform, but I want to know these things. I want to know macro data around how to improve my conversions or what sessions were more attractive than others to my customers. So one big thing is we just really beefed up our analytics and insights because we feel like that is powerful, because then you could take those data sets and apply them to segmentation on the back end to better your marketing experience for whoever comes in the door, right?
Yeah. So, and you can gauge how well your script or your storytelling is going, what your engagement rate is like, and what to do about it for future versions.
Exactly. And we've added a lot of those pieces to it. So you can track your actual engagement through whether you want to do it on a webinar level, single webinar level, or macro level. You want to track everything together, and see how it's improving. So we dug deep into that. And, we created this one tool called Full Scope a while back, which was an analytic tool for live video. We did it for Periscope. But so we took some of those thoughts and concepts and applied it to Easy Webinar so that we could track engagement better, because engagement and automation and engagement are two things we really focus on. Engagement is that better experience for a sales and marketing process. So we're focusing on automation and engagement, because we feel like there's got to be a better customer experience. And, the customer has changed, how people buy has changed, webinars have changed, AI is part of the picture and all sorts of stuff. So, and with AI though, on that topic of AI, being able to still connect with an audience on this level basis, I think is going to be even more important to sort of separate out a content differentiator, right?
Dude, thank you for saying that. Yeah, because I think a big thing with technology is you have technology and then you have the human side, humanity, and it's got to blend. And we had Lee Richter on the podcast, and she's a big proponent of technology and all this. And not sure do you know her?
Yes,
she's awesome. Yeah. And she's like, technology does not go backwards. It keeps moving forward. So, AI, everything's going to keep pushing, but the human side of things. And she's the one that really put it in my mind is like, that it's the blend of two, like the humanity side and technology. So I think you're spot on with showing yourself.
I think that the humanity side is still going to be a much needed thing, because the way we, our purchase habits are still based on heart, our purchase habits are still based on intuition and connection and relationships and things like that. So, I call this idea, I call it scalable intimacy, not the intimacy that, that a lot of people go to initially, but no, the scalable, like, how do you feel like the mom and pop, experience, but automating that process and still having that one-on-one connection, but scaling that one-on-one connection up, and I think the webinar process does that. And I think it's just a question of like, what's going to help us stay relevant and engaged with our customers now and get the sale, while also leveraging automation as well. And, that's why we still have, a lot of our customers are using our automated webinars, for in their business still. So it's like, I feel it's important to do both. And in fact, webinars have changed, the direct to slides type of thing doesn't necessarily resonate as much. I mean, sometimes it can, but the human connection, the in front of the camera experience, the more of the guerrilla way of marketing, where you're just, the buttoned up video doesn't work as well as the busted up iPhone moving around way, so
that's what I've noticed with, I mean, you see it on social, and I was going to ask about with webinars, like if there's a style change, because the slide thing was so prevalent for so long, but obviously now with AI, like you can kind of automate a lot of that stuff. You see people even, doing that on YouTube and kind of creating niche channels, but it's like, okay, that's great, but it's kind of like noise and it's not a connection. So I'm curious of some hints or some trends that you found. You mentioned a few already.
I think we just need to get more to the point, but still stay in front of the camera. You know what I mean? Like, I think that where maybe you highlighted, what kind of result you are able to get for somebody in the middle of a webinar, you're doing it in the beginning of the webinar. You're getting to the point faster. You're getting to how I can help you faster, while at the same time, they have to be able to experience your humanity whilst all that is happening. So I think it's like, how do you get to that? And, we as presenters, or we as people that are selling products and services, just have to be punchier with how we get to those points, and mixing it up a bit. I mean, listen, the webinar flow and the webinar scripting, the same stuff that worked 5 years ago, 10 years ago, still work today. It's just a question of now adding in the fact that we have less of an attention span, right? And how do we get to that point faster? How do we get to but still, the 45-minute webinar, 1 hour webinar to sell a mid-ticket product is still basically the length of time it takes, You know what I mean? Like, it's like you could attempt to do it in 20, but you may not get the conversions, you know what I mean? So I think a lot of the fundamentals are still there, and we've just seen that people still buy off of workshops, and you build that connection, and you're driving people to a sales call. Obviously, a sales call webinar, 15-minute, 20-minute, that's all you really need to convey, what you need, and then get them on a call and close the deal there. But yeah, I mean, with Easy Webinar Next, we've added a few components, the analytics. We have a page builder now, very similar, let's say, ClickFunnels. It's a, build it, customize it yourself, create it, complete webinar funnel in your own brand and all sorts of stuff, from scratch if you need to, or go and find one of our, dozens of templates that have been created for you that you could just plug and play your own information into. So, we did that so that people wouldn't need to have a third-party page builder to use our system.
Extra tools.
We have the ability to still take a widget and put it in your favorite page builder tool, but now we are doing it for you, so you don't have to as well. It's got a few other things. It's got we've added and deepened our segmentation built into the system. So, all the follow-ups can be based on actions performed in the webinar. So within Easy Webinar, you can create segmentations based on whether they left early, if they only watched 20 minutes of the webinar, or if they left before the offer, left before maybe, a downloadable PDF. We have so many different triggers that you can create follow-up experiences within Easy Webinar, and then still pass all those data points into your favorite CRMs as well, if you don't want to use our built-in follow-up. But we added those pieces in the built-in follow-up, so you don't need another software to be able to push out and complete funnel. So what we're doing is we're eliminating the need for a few other pieces, but still keeping it robust enough to where it works seamlessly with those already existing platforms too.
It does seem like a perfect blend between, and it has evolved a lot since, years past, or the last time we had you on the show, because it's robust as a standalone, but also flexible if you're a savvy, standalone, let's say if you're starting something out, testing a new offer, not wanting to load a bunch of tools and overwhelm yourself with things. That's what I've always appreciated with it, and also other software that builds this kind of way. But fact is that you can be flexible if you have all those existing systems.
Exactly. I think we want to be able to have we want you to be able to build your email list, sell products fundamentally without the need to have everything that you hear you need, to be able to be successful, right? Oh, can you launch a course? A lot of people think, I'm going to launch a course, I better buy a course platform first.
Yep.
I always say to them, it's like, well, to me, that's the cart before the horse, because pre-sell it, run it live through a webinar platform that records all the content, and then take the recorded content after you've run it live and after you've also proven the concept that people want to watch, consume your content, but also they get results from your content, get the feedback through that process of running it live, and then put it in a membership site. So build the email list, by on our system, get the leads coming in on our system, then do a webinar to pre-sell those leads into a online course that you're going to run live for 4 to 6 weeks using our system. And then now, after you've gotten results, get them, maybe do some coaching with them individually, get them to give results using our system. Because again, you can capture video, right?
Yeah.
All of those things can be done prior to even putting anything into a system, into a course platform. And so it's kind of like you're running a live course with our platform and then proving the concept, generating some revenue right out of the gate. Now you can start to grow, start to scale, and add those other software platforms into the mix, right?
Yes.
Once you already start to generate the revenue to support it,
Man, this is giving me an idea, because there's a new offer I'm working on right now around the podcasting, and I've been doing a lot of one-on-one consulting, but as more of a group form, and really updating a lot of the things in the IP that I'm already sitting on. But I'd like to run it in a similar way. It was about 6-week kind of thing. So it makes a lot of sense. And I didn't think about the webinar approach, but now you're totally opening my mind to like, okay, yep, just run it live.
Well, yeah. Well, my coaching students, I would teach a process of actually having 2 tracks. I'd have 3 tracks. You come into a coaching, you get an access to an online education portal. You also get what we call a fast track, which is 6 weeks of webinars. Okay. Those webinars you can run live or actually automated. And so we've strung together automated webinars weekly in this flow. And then we also have another track of weekly group coaching. So we have a group coaching call, a weekly, if they're in the first 6 weeks, and once anyone can enter at any point, and they'll only be the track of the 6 weeks. So it's not like they come in week 6 and now they're like, what am I doing? No.
So it's customized or personalized.
It's customized. Whenever they come in, it puts them on the track of the 6 weeks. Now, the only thing that's different is the group coaching that is weekly. You have people that are maybe in their 6th week of that process. What we do is we offer 3 months of coaching. So we offer, even though they go through the 6-week track, we offer 3 months of them being able to come into the group coaching. And what the group coaching allows, and you do this once a week or twice a week for the group coaching, because the automated webinars are automated, right? So you have more time to do the other ones. So if you do 2 days of group coaching, you can decide if you want to have them, for more of the early stage people in the process and funnel versus the later stage. You can choose to have it as people that are in this first 6 weeks, where, maybe someone is in week 6 and someone's in week 1, but whatever you're sharing about, in the group session, still relevant to them. They still benefit from them, especially week 1ers seeing week 6ers, they can see the results. And so I actually don't mind having everybody in all the sessions, but you could choose to just have, 6 weekers in one coaching, and the people after 6 weeks, that still get access for like 90 days, from the beginning, they can be in another one. And then you can upsell them into a mastermind, let's say, afterwards. But
that's right.
I like the ability to balance a bit of both, the automation, but at the same time, that engagement, and basically use Easy Webinar for all of it.
That's what I love about it. And I think, you just mapped out, because that's similar to what I had in mind, but actually way better. And I feel like a lot more engaged as well. And with automation, I mean, you could automate a lot of this and obviously refine and get a lot of real-time stats. And I think that's what I'm going to do, Casey. I think you just sold me on the concept of using Easy Webinar. But well, also,
well, I think it's cool, because in the 6 weeks, what we would do is every single week it would have them, hey, there's homework for the next week. So go into the online portal and do these 4 or 5 actions. So you go into the online portal, you do the 4 or 5 actions, and meet us for the next week. And in the group coaching for that next week, we talk about what they've done, and they can give updates and things like that. So that's how I do it. And that, frankly, to be honest with you, that's how you do it if you are a one-person army, like if you're not bringing in coaches to reach out to them on a consistent basis, this is one structure. Now, another add-on piece is, having an integrator that can get on with them to help them through text, having an ads person that can help them through the, whatever marketing and ads, and having, whether it's a copywriter or an AI expert or somebody, having come, bringing other people's minds into the mix as well is always a powerful piece to that. But you could always have it like this first 6 weeks are you coaching them, or maybe another person coaching them too, and then after that, now you have more of like rotating experts coming in.
Yeah. And definitely, I think having that connection with, well, it's so valuable as a standalone course by itself. You got to have community in there, I feel like, and that engagement brings back to the humanities side of things. And because there's obviously loads of information everywhere, but you're right. Like I'm a big fan of even consulting. I've done this where I hire someone else that might be the expert on a very specific topic, but wrap them into the strategy. Same goes with these, let's call them weekly community calls or mastermind calls, is you bring a topic expert and boom, it's going to benefit everyone. Maybe that's a module that turns into something later on as well. So always definitely.
That's good. That's the way to, that's a great way to do it. And I always like to use webinars for the entire flow, frankly, until
it simplifies it, right?
And before I even had an online portal, like where I had a membership site where I had a bunch of this stuff, I was just running. Everything was automated webinar live courses. So, I'd sell them into the 6 week, and maybe if I didn't have the coaching element, it would be half off, or something to that effect. So, there was something to be said about that flow.
Cool. Thank you, man. Yeah, I think it's helpful for me, but I'm sure it's helpful for others who are maybe starting a new offer or considering putting something new out there. Doesn't matter what phase you're in. And this just simplifies the process with a really good strategy too. That does work.
And I think that's where, our platform is still, that's why I started off as a course creator. So I still love course creators, coaches, consultants, and people that are trying to grow their expertise. And so putting a lot of energy back into the system for those pieces,
Right on, man. I do want to shout out your podcast and quickly, maybe some of the vision that you have behind it. And also, obviously you had some health stuff last year as well when it came to your heart. And I'm sure that helped you reframe some things. So tell me, and I hate to rush this, but take as much time as you want, because I don't want to take you away from your fam more too.
No, I had heart surgery last year. They found this tumor in my heart in like March of 2022. And it was kind of, at that time I'd already had the podcast out. Here's the thing, in 2022, I was doing more coaching, and I was really pushing on my podcast and getting some good people coming in to the podcast in around that same time. So I was getting more experts, just people who, I love these Easy Webinar customers, basically, like James Wedmore and Amy Porterfield and a few others, that I was bringing in. And, but then I had the surgery, or I had the health problem. And then I had several months of recovery. And I created this podcast called Impact Warrior because my whole thing was like, to be able to have the impact that we want to create, we have to be able to break through tons of different barriers and walls and moments in our life, right? Mine became trying to get my sons home, right? Being a good father, trying to battle against health scare that just popped up. And now I kind of slow down, and, it's almost like you're frozen in time, and you're like, I got to get back to the momentum that I had, the thing that I had. And there are always going to be these times in our lives where we're faced with that, where it feels like we're kind of, punched back down type of thing, like we're up, but then bam, we're down. And I think that the podcast idea is to share stories around that, to share moments of up against the wall, or share moments of having to break through a very tremendous and difficult barrier in our lives. And so that was why the podcast was created. And obviously since then, I haven't done as much with it for a little bit of time, because I was also recovering and going through this process. So that was one of my, impact warrior scenarios where I needed to break through to be able to create consistency and get back into the thing that I love to share, which is other people's stories around these things too.
Yeah.
So that's why I created it. But at the same moment, the health problems kind of like knocked me down, and I was recovering for 4 months or so from
I remember seeing the posts and everything.
From the surgery. And it was an interesting that was a tough time, because I was distracted a lot during that time as well. Was this
before the surgery, or distraction?
During March, April, May, June, even going into July, probably for 5 months, I I was kind of like almost 6 months. I wasn't myself, I was like trying to gain my health back, and it was and I was having the team was doing more, and what was interesting also is that I couldn't do as much with the team.
Yeah.
And we noticed that some things were happening while all this was happening. We were rebuilding our new version, and while all this was also happening, we had some developers leave. So we lost a couple developers. I had some team members who were just sort of checking in without doing the work.
Yeah.
And we were spending all these resources on people that weren't necessarily doing the thing, right?
Yeah.
And, it was one of those glaring moments of like, okay, we need to change this process. So in the middle of 2022, all these things started to change. So we changed team members, and we rolled out Easy Webinar Next to our existing community as in a beta, adding it into some accounts. And so the beginning so in 2023, we just seen a great change in not only, our culture in the business, but also in how active we are. Because I think in 2022, there was because I was out of it, they weren't necessarily as involved. Do you know what I mean?
Trickles down from the leader or the visionary.
It kind of trickles down, right? If they don't have the energy to stay, and they're not reminded of the energy, then that can happen, unfortunately. But
well, hey man, I think it sounds like, obviously it's always horrible when something like that happens, a big health scare, but at the same time, it sounds like you've approached it with this reset, and there's always this distraction or whatever, slow the lull recovery phase. I know it's not a perfect comparison, but me changing things up with Matt, like I had a similar feeling afterwards. I mean, it was a long-term relationship of us working together, and then it's like, what do I do? Or like, what are the pieces? Like, got a lot of them. How do we bring them back and really optimize what we have? And it sounds like you've done that in a big way, obviously, with the existing thing.
Yeah, it's sometimes when you yes, I think we always have to redefine ourselves or check in, and see where we're at. And I think there were years where things were just like, we were steadily, Easy Webinar steadily growing. I pulled my brand out, was doing my coaching, and it's just like when COVID hit, we were disrupted. There's always going to be these disruptions, right? That happen, and it's just a question of how we traverse those moments, right? How we, how are we handling it? And it's never, we're always going to be dealing with it. There's no perfect world where we're not going to deal with that crap, right? So it's like, how do you deal with that crap? Sometimes you have to work harder to solve the problems, and it's going to be on you to solve it, not anyone else. Or, you can take a step back, but you always know in the back of your mind, this is not permanent.
That's right.
And I think the people that are successful realize that there's an impermanence of being in a state of pure success constantly, right?
That's right, man.
It's
the ups and downs, right? But figuring out like what's that through line there that we can kind of get back to baseline, I guess. And clarity. And it's hard because we're always like, I just want to be able to support my family, and I want to be able give them things that I didn't have, or give them, it's like, so there are so many pressures that we're also thinking about while also doing all these things. And so I think I say all that, but at the same time, I would never give up being an entrepreneur, because I work on the things I want to work on, and I think that anything like that happens where there's a split or relationship changes, or, now you are doing more of these things, or you need to fill this gap, it's a growth process and a journey, and you get to experience it, and you get to be better, and you rise to it, rise to what you need, where you need to rise. That's right, man. And I think that's a perfect way to cap it off here. And also Impact Warrior, it's like perfect for the name too. You learn so much through what you do, but go into the fire, go through, because once you go through, maybe without, it wasn't your choice to go through that, but you know what, you learn so much. So
you still have to be a warrior, man. Exactly. You have to be able to push through that hard stuff and come out the other side. It's not going to be perfect, but you have to tackle it. You have to break through the wall,
Yeah, man. Well, brother, I appreciate you coming back and taking the extra time. I know the fam's waiting for you. So want to shout out Easy Webinar Next. Go check it out over there. And I'll link everything in the show notes as well, of course. And Impact Warrior, your podcast, CaseyZeman.com. Anything else?
We're going to bring Joe on.
Oh, yeah.
So everybody knows. Yeah.
I can't wait, man. Yeah. Anything else you want to shout out before we cut you loose?
No, I just want to thank you for just all the content that you've shared throughout the years, just valuable people, valuable insights. And, I feel like I don't want years to pass before we talk again.
Dude,
So,
I know. We won't make that happen again.
I know. Let's get less siloed. Everybody, we're all siloed in our own lives and businesses, right?
That's so true, man. And I found that in myself too, for better or for worse. There's some better parts of that, but yeah. It's,
I mean, we need
connect.
to be out of it. But COVID was like such a siloed thing. It was like
Dude.
kept us like out of it. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, I'm trying to come out of the bubble. So
I'm with you, man. Yeah, I'm like, this is the first time I've been a bubble boy in my life, I feel like, but
yeah,
gotta get out a little bit, shake it off.
Gotta get out. Yes.
All right, man. Well, appreciate you. Have fun with the fam, and we will chat very soon. Thanks,
All right,
Casey.
brother. All right, thanks.
All right. That's what I got for you today. And remember, it's not all about living to work. It's all about working to live, if you need to do the work. But work can be fun, and it should be fueling for your life. So if you enjoyed what you just heard, if you got some nuggets of wisdom that you want to share, or you're just noodling on right now, please go tell others the way that people find this show and how you can help others get their aha moments is through word of mouth. So if it is telling your friend, telling your family, sending an email to your list, writing a review, or whatever it might be, everything helps. So thank you so much for listening to the Hustle and Flowchart podcast, and I will see you next time.